Avatar. Now, Avatar, as some of you know, is James Cameron's big movie, 10 years to make. It tells the story of Pocahontas and John Smith, who meet on the coast of America, and they share their cultures and realize that one country pillaging the other and starting war is not good overall for the spirit of peace and the environment, all of that. Now replace John Smith with the U.S. Army, Pocahontas by Na'vi, and replace America with the planet Pandora, and there you go. You got Avatar.
Yeah, I admit I went into Avatar with a little bit of shock and awe. I guess James Cameron's living the life I'd like to lead, basically doing everything he gets to do, get away with it. But it was engaged. It was brilliant. And within a few minutes, I kind of forgot that I was actually looking at 3D. That first drop of water that's floating over Jake Sully's head was brilliant, and I was sucked into the storyline. It's a movie I never want to watch again. That being said,
I sort of have a unique perspective because I basically had to close my eyes halfway through the movie. And there's about an hour of the movie I experienced completely in audio. Anything that's shot in a handheld camera is not good for me. First part wasn't too bad. Last part wasn't too bad. The effects, obviously, are right insane.
and then there's a middle in there somewhere.
Then the screen goes black for about an hour. But it was awesome. Seriously, the soundtrack was interesting, and I can sort of imagine things going on. It was a very strange thing.
It's weird. 3D allows you some perspective, a foreground and a background, but because it's filmed, on 2D, you still have that focus aspect where the foreground is more focused and the background is less focused. So it took me out of the movie.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I'm probably one of the few people who found the film a little underwhelming, and I think maybe part of that has to do with the fact that it was really hyped. But I have to say that the story's been told over and over and over again. You use the Pocahontas framework, but really you could apply any framework from Dances with Wolves to Lawrence of Arabia even.
You sort of have to do that, though. Like, a lot of people keep freaking out over the story. I mean, it's funny on one hand, but I figure if you're going to blow $300 million on a movie, you might as well go for something that's like, okay, let's go with the basic story that everybody knows, or I'm not going to do this crazy story that's very experimental or whatever. Like,
if I can jump in on that, I agree. And certainly a movie that's going to be in development for this long, so much investment, they're looking for something that's going to be international in scope. Titanic was simple. It was easy to understand. People in love, Nonetheless...
Ship versus the iceberg.
Exactly.
Right.
Who's going to win this time? Then you've got Avatar, and the thing is, it's doing really well overseas, but I'm almost surprised because I can't get away from, the colonial aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. But it's anti-colonialism.
So wait a minute. Is it because they had...
Is it really?
Is it? You've got
Yes,
Jake
okay.
Sully going into the native culture, becoming the most kick-ass of the natives.
Yeah, the leader in
within 3 months.
What?
3
Yeah,
months?
okay.
That's how long it usually takes me,
Yes, but you don't have the superpowers that come with when you trade charisma for learning things fast, as Sam Worthington does.
This is true.
I look at Avatar very much the same way as I look at Star Wars, right? Star Wars is very just basic story, but, George Lucas comes around, produces this movie with this new approach to technology, and just basically goes, oh my god, this is amazing. This is the same thing, in a sense.
Can I draw a parallel between the better storytelling in something like Star Wars and maybe the flawed storytelling, at least from my point of view, in something like Avatar? I found James Cameron, I think he's a bit of a tech geek. I don't think anyone is really going to argue against it. Mm-hmm. As much as he's, got the Tree of Life here, and he's so safe as a storyteller that he takes the first segment of the movie to make sure we completely understand what an avatar is. In a very pedantic, slow, and plodding way. Whereas I didn't know what the Force was in Star Wars.
Until the prequels.
If I could rewrite Avatar and make it a better story, I would have done it from the female protagonist's point of view and not even explain the science and just have these new Na'vi come and then slowly realize that, no, these are avatars, and them trying to understand who these conquering people are. From the point of view of the native, you know what I mean?
This is fan fiction aside.
Fiction.
Oh.
Actually, my issue with the story...
I'm on that like glue on Navi.
My issue with the story, though, actually, is it's a noble savage story. And it's not that it's simple, it's that I hate noble savage stories. because they all pertain to be, let's accept the other person and blah, blah, blah. But really, what it's doing is saying, yeah, being a savage is good too. So it doesn't stop calling the other culture savage just because it's different.
Yeah, one thing that I didn't like about the film, and Chris touched on it earlier, was the veiled stereotyping of the Na'vi. And I think this was part of my issue with the film.
Even the actors they used, you could tell from that.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. In the genre of sci-fi, my expectation is to be sort of transported to another reality. And I felt that, the veiled stereotyping didn't have that impact. The only way that I was really transported was through the visual effects. Why are we in colonial Africa? That's what I kept thinking throughout the entire film, and I think that was a bit of a disservice. And the film could have had a better approach with regard to the alien culture. Because really, the alien culture wasn't that alien to begin with.
I want to also address a little bit of the acting, because I find it incredibly stilted. Yeah. I'm of the opinion that Sam Worthington, who keeps scoring lead roles one after the other, would be a very efficient supporting actor, because he's just kind of mid-range in terms of charisma, and if he doesn't have too many lines, you realize that he's not the T-1000. But here he's the leading role, and it amazed me how much more interesting he was when an entire department of animators were doing the acting for him than when he was actually on screen.
On that note of the acting, I just want to say shame on Sigourney Weaver.
Yes.
Shame.
I love her!
Okay?
Some of the worst lines.
Terrible.
And a movie.
Shocking, given her pedigree of science fiction roles where she played one of the most famous heroines in the genre, and actually worked with Cameron on one of the most famous films in the genre. I just felt that Sigourney Weaver was there to sort of rope in all the diehard Alien fans who love Lieutenant Ripley, but really she just looked like an old washed-up sci-fi den mother. Where I'm like, okay, I don't really care.
Her first line in the movie, she steps out of her hibernation unit and asks for a cigarette, and I thought about Apone in Aliens right off the bat, like sticking the cigar into his mouth.
Well, actually, that brings me to some point. How derivative of Aliens was this movie? Everything was like, oh, it's like Aliens, except instead of the scientists being the evil guys, it's the military being the evil guys. Even at the end, there's like an alien fighting an exoskeleton suit, except the roles are reversed as to who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. It's the same fight.
Well, absolutely. That guy. I don't even know if is it him that was bad, or was it just one line after another that they gave him?
When you go and see a science fiction film, the antagonists have to remain foreign. And
why? You racist?
Well, foreign in the sense of, the mystery behind, who they are, why they are. What I'm trying to say is, I just expected a little more mystery regarding the Na'vi.
I think there is a lot of mystery with the Na'vi, and that's almost like a problem with the storyline, is that you saw more about the Ewoks in terms of how they lived. You know what I mean? Like, the Na'vi just kind of like hang around, and then Jake Sully goes through, and he kind of gets to the front of the line right away. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really see how they eat, how they live, how they really go through their lives. You know what I mean? Like,
well, they do noble savage things. That's all.
Exactly. You know. So
what we're looking for is an anthropological study.
I feel like the whole Na'vi storyline was just built up so that you could have like dragons versus helicopters at a certain point. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah,
and it was beautifully done, and it hit like the 15-year-old heart of me, and I was like, wow, that's pretty fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. And you felt the weight and the speed, and and that was neat.
Agreed. I agree.
But see, that's what I went to see. I went to see basically a roller coaster.
Yeah, the eye candy.
Yeah. And quite frankly, it's a bit like you said. I'm never going to see this film again. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially if this review is going to be posted right around the DVD release. Well, you already know that if you're listening. But if you haven't seen the movie, don't watch it on video, for heaven's sake. There's no appeal.
There's no point.
There's really no point. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to split my rating. C for story, I'll still give it an A+ in terms of effects. I'm almost tempted to go see it again just for the parts that I've missed, but since I sort of felt queasy to begin with, I'm not sure that's going to improve anytime soon.
Yeah, but since the moviegoers can't actually just, delete the story while watching the visual effects, what actual rating were you going to give it?
I think that's where I come in, is just, I could never call this movie underambitious, but nonetheless, I do think he got lost in the mechanics of just like, how is he going to sell 3D? You know, it looks amazing now, but it's probably going to look dated in 3 years. And the thing that we're going to look at is a story that's pretty old and pretty boring. And I might have been impressed when I walked out of it. I turned down the offer to watch it a second time, and I think now it would be even harsher, and I'd probably say that the movie is a C-.
I'm giving it a C+, under ambitious. Look, if you're going to spend 10 years on making a movie, 2 days on the script, not a bad idea. I'm just saying, maybe 2 months even, Or hire some writers, for heaven's sake.
Actually, that's what I was
He probably didn't have the money for that.
But because here's my thing with this. I can deal with all the familiar elements. I can even forgive the Noble Savage movie. But not if I have to sit for 3 hours in a theater calling every beat by beat, from the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then look at my wallet and go, hey, look, I'm $18 short.
I would probably say a B+, and that is really nothing to do with the story, but really for the spectacle, the show that I went to see, the experience that I had. Being literally like inside the film, like that was an aspect that was interesting, the way it was filmed.
I'm going to sort of agree with what Eric said. If that background effect hadn't been a problem for me, I would probably give the film a B+. As it is, I would say it was enjoyable, and that's about it.
I do have to say, the 3D technology was awesome. I wore those glasses on the way out. I walked around on the street, and everything was three-dimensional. It was really, really incredible.